would think after having a fantastic draft like the Minnesota Vikings just did this past weekend that it's time to throw your hands up in the air, wave them like you just don't care, have a quarantine Zoom party happy hour where you get all your friends online and take as many shots as you want. However, there is something, if you're a Vikings fan, to keep an eye on, and that is the Anthony Harris situation, who has still not signed his franchise tag. The deadline is July 15th. And something else that I found interesting is that, according to Chris Thomason, it's reported that Anthony Harris, when asked about whether he plans to participate in the virtual offseason program for the Minnesota Vikings, Harris responded, no comment. Now, let me be clear. All things being equal, do I care if a player does or does not participate in voluntary offseason programs? Absolutely not. You know why? Because it's voluntary. And I get it. I get how the NFL works because I worked in sales for 3 or 4 years. Monday through Fridays, sales. But then they would have voluntary Saturdays, whereas you can come in for a couple of hours on Saturdays to do extra hours of sales. You didn't have to come in. It wasn't mandatory, but it was encouraged. And what that meant was if you didn't come in on those voluntary Saturdays, you get frowned upon by the boss. Oh, I don't know if you're committed. I don't know if he's dedicated. I don't know if he really is passionate about the ultimate goal that we have as a team for company X, Y, Z. However, when you add up all the tea leaves, because when you consider two players on the Vikings where their future with the team is either in question or you at least have an idea that they're trying to work out a long-term contract, Dalvin Cook and Anthony Harris, they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum because reportedly Dalvin Cook, he plans to participate in the off-season programs or the virtual off-season program for the Minnesota Vikings, but it's just situational considering Anthony Harris did not sign his franchise tag and he's not saying whether he will or will not participate. I understand that you don't want to go heavy on safeties. Cap-wise, you don't want to spend too much money on safeties. Mike Zimmer went up on the podium. Ideally, 2 safeties, highest paid in the league. You don't need to do that. I get that in a vacuum. However, you need to keep Anthony Harris. I would keep this dude, especially when you consider the Legion of Boom, the most recent example. Heads up, folks, whenever that 30 for 30 doc comes out on the Legion of Boom, you know who they're going to focus on when it comes to the secondary? 3 guys, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and Richard Sherman. As far as the opposite cornerback of Richard Sherman, no one's going to really talk about them because you had Brandon Browner, and then Byron Maxwell, who really was more of a beneficiary of the scheme more so than their talent. Because then when they went elsewhere, they weren't nearly as good as what they were in Seattle. And I think you have that here with Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris. And I understand the biggest question that I had was if we have weak cornerback groups heading into the 2020 season, you really want Anthony Harris. I'm actually really, really excited about the cornerbacks that we have heading into next year. Still, it couldn't hurt. You know why? Because when you're the big man on campus, at the college level, you're playing college football and you're kicking ass. Oh my God, everything's great. And then you go to the next level where you're a rookie. If you're big man on campus in junior high in the 8th grade, but then you go up to high school and you're a freshman, you're suddenly fresh meat to the upperclassmen. If you're a rookie in the NFL, you're fresh meat to those veterans. And then if you get called out by the bully to meet him outside on the blacktop at 3 p.m., a Kenny Galladay, an Allen Robinson, a Devontae Adams, you may feel good about yourself, but you feel extra confident knowing that you got your big brother in the corner behind you just to help you out in case shit really, really goes down, and that is Anthony Harris. Anthony Harris is such a game changer at safety, so athletic. He plays like a fucking basketball player the way he leaps for days. We need this man on this team. And let me not remind you folks about all the times. Do you remember all those years Harrison Smith early on in his career? Oh my God, can we just have a competent safety to play next to Harrison Smith? It's kind of like what we're saying with the offensive line now for the last couple of years. Can we just have a good offensive line? Can we just have a good offensive line? We're saying the same thing. We were saying the same thing about that opposite safety playing next to Harrison Smith, because when you have that Swiss Army knife in Harrison Smith, we want to play him at the line of scrimmage. We want to play him at the second level. And you need a guy to play center field all by himself, and you want to have that trust in him. Anthony Harris is that guy. We had that with Andrew Sendejo only in 2017. That was his career best season. Suddenly he played his ass off that year, and we got it more consistently with Anthony Harris. I really hope we keep this dude, but either way, if you don't keep him or you trade him, something's got to give at some point. This situation has got to resolve for Anthony Harris. Let me know your thoughts. What should we do with Anthony Harris? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We do this at least once a week on Mondays, Mediocre Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Check me out on Twitter at realistic_Randy, Facebook at Realistic Randy. We'll see you next time.